The moment my daughter hugged him, I realized too late that he wasn't just any stranger. Stay with us, because what happens next isn't what you expect. For more emotional stories like this, subscribe and turn on notifications. I was late again, and Los Angeles doesn't forgive lateness. Not in traffic, not in rent, and definitely not in business meetings. I had 10 minutes to drop off my daughter at kindergarten before rushing to a catering appointment that could keep our bills paid for another month. Mommy, that man looks sad, Emma whispered, clutching her pink lunchbox as we hurried through the marble lobby of the Persian Towers. Where the event was scheduled, I didn't even glance up. Sweetheart, don't stare. We're already too late. She slipped from my hand, her little sneakers squeaking on the polished floor. Emma! My voice hit the air just as she ran to a tall man standing near the elevator. A man in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. He looked like he'd stepped out of a glossy magazine, broad shoulders. Perfectly combed dark hair, sunglasses indoors, and that cold, bored stillness that powerful. Men were like cologne dot, then my daughter hugged his leg. The sound that came out of me wasn't quite a word, more like a gasp of parental horror. Emma, no, honey, come here right now. The man glanced down, frowning in surprise. Well, his voice was low, smooth, but carrying the kind of authority that made people stop moving. Didn't see that coming. I hurried forward, mortified, tugging Emma back. I am so sorry. She thought you were someone else. He looked at me then, and I instantly wished he hadn't. His eyes were sharp, still gray, assessing. They didn't look at me, they dissected me. No harm done, he said, but his tone didn't match the words. It was detached, amused, like he was watching a scene unfold just for his entertainment. Say sorry. Emma, I muttered, trying to regain control. Emma looked up at him, wide-eyed. You looked lonely. My stomach dropped. Emma, his eyebrow lifted a fraction. Out of the mouths of babes. I wanted the ground to open up and swallow me whole. She's just tired, I said quickly. Long morning. Again, sorry to bother you. He smirked, taking off his sunglasses. The movement was slow, deliberate. You always apologize this much, or am I just lucky? My throat caught. Only when my child accidentally assaults strangers with affection. He chuckled. Cute kid. Thank you. Goodbye. I turned to leave, determined to forget his face entirely, but fate, apparently, had a cruel sense of humor. The catering manager waved from across the lobby. Miss Hayes, you're here. The client's upstairs waiting for the tasting. I froze mid-step. The client? Please no. The man beside me adjusted his cufflinks and smiled like he'd been expecting this twist all along. Looks like that's me. My brain short-circuited. You're Mr. Romano? He offered a hand. Luca Romano. And you are... I ignored the hand. Embarrassed. His grin widened. Nice to meet you, embarrassed. I exhaled through gritted teeth. Natalie Hayes, I own Sweet Haven Catering. Perfect, he said smoothly. Let's see if your food's as honest as your kid. I followed him upstairs with Emma holding my hand tightly. Every instinct screamed that I didn't belong here. Crystal walls, security guards, people whispering his name like he was some kind of legend. Romano, I heard the name. A family of real estate magnates, or maybe something darker. Depending on which corner of Los Angeles you listen to, his penthouse office wasn't really an office. It was a fortress dressed like art. The entire floor looked over the city skyline. Sunlight bounced off the glass, throwing gold across the leather and steel dot. He gestured to the table. Let's eat. I set up nervously small plates, tasting spoons, napkins folded with trembling fingers. So, Mr. Romano, we specialize in events that focus on comfort over extravagance. Warmth, not flash. Comfort, he repeated, watching me rather than the food. That's rare in this city. I tried not to look at him, tried to focus on describing each dish, but I felt his gaze steady, unflinching. Emma sat on the couch, coloring quietly, her pink backpack beside her. When I looked at her, she gave me a small thumbs up like she knew I needed courage. Romano took a bite of the risotto. You made this? Yes, it's honest. Honest? He nodded, not trying too hard to impress. That's impressive. I'll take that as a compliment. It was one. His voice softened for the first time, and for a moment the arrogance dropped. He looked tired, not in a way of late nights, but of long years. Then his phone buzzed. He answered in Italian, tone instantly cold. I couldn't understand the words, but I knew authority when I heard it. When he hung up, his expression had changed darker, guarded again. You can leave the samples, he said. I'll be in touch. I nodded, ready to leave as fast as possible, but Emma, again, had other plans. She climbed off the couch, marched up to him, and said, You didn't smile, mister. He blinked. What? My mommy says food makes people happy. You didn't smile? The tension cracked, just slightly. His mouth twitched upward like he wasn't used to the movement. Better? She grinned. Better. I felt heat crawl up my neck. Okay, that's enough, Emma. Time to go. Wait, Romano said, his tone unreadable. You're a single mother? The question hit too close. I'm a professional woman who doesn't discuss her private life with clients. He smiled faintly. You just did. I hated that he was right. Thank you for your time, Mr. Romano. As I packed up, his voice followed me. Miss Hayes, you'll cater the gala next Friday. Full contract. I'll have my assistant send the details. I froze. That wasn't part of the tasting. It is now. I stared at him, suspicion rising. Why? He leaned back, looking almost amused. Because your food made me feel something, and because your daughter hugged me. That has to count for something. That's not how business works. In my world it is. His gaze held mine, daring me to refuse. And the worst part? I needed the money. Fine, I said tightly. I'll do it. Good, he murmured. I like people who don't play hard to get forever. The arrogance in his tone burned through my patience. You have the wrong idea about me, do I? His eyes softened just slightly. Then prove me wrong. I turned to leave before I said something unprofessional, dragging Emma toward the elevator. My heart pounded, not just from anger, but from something more dangerous. As the doors slid shut, Emma waved at him. Bye, Mr. Mafia man. My blood froze. Emma, where did you hear that? She shrugged. The guard downstairs said he's scary. Luca Romano's lips curved into a slow, dangerous smile as the doors closed between us. I stared at the reflection of my own face in the elevator mirror. My stomach twisted. I'd just been hired by a man everyone whispered about in half-truths and warnings, and my daughter had hugged him first. Somehow, I knew life as I'd known it was about to unravel. The first rule of surviving Los Angeles: never owe powerful people favors. The second: never let them owe you one either. I'd already broken both. By Monday morning, I was knee-deep in contracts, calls, and chaos. Luca Romano's gala wasn't just another event, it was the event. The guest list read like a collision between Hollywood royalty and political firepower. I should have been flattered he chose me. Instead, I was terrified. Mommy, why are you staring at the fridge? Emma asked from the kitchen table, where she was drawing something suspiciously labeled Mr. Mafia Man and Me, because, I muttered, rubbing my temples, I think I've made a very, very big mistake. Is it bigger than when you burn pancakes? Much bigger. She nodded seriously. Then maybe don't burn it this time. I smiled despite myself. I'll try. The Romano estate sat high above the city, white stone, black iron, and the kind of silence that screamed wealth and warning in equal measure. When I arrived for the pre-gala walkthrough, I wasn't expecting Luca to answer the door himself, but he did. No tie today, no armor of tailored precision. Just rolled up sleeves, faint stubble, and a half smile that looked almost human. "Miss Hayes," he greeted. "You're punctual." "I like that. Fear is a great motivator," I said flatly, stepping inside. "Fear?" He raised a brow. "You think I'm frightening?" "I think people whisper your name like a curse." "That's usually a sign." He chuckled. "People exaggerate. I'm in real estate, not racketeering." "Right, and I only bake cookies." He looked at me for a long moment, something sharp flickering in his expression. "You have a dangerous mouth, Miss Hayes. Occupational hazard." "Or defense mechanism?" I didn't answer. He didn't push. We walked through the ballroom together. I pointed out layout adjustments, lighting angles, seating patterns, all while pretending my hands weren't shaking every time he stepped too close. He listened more than I expected, though his gaze lingered longer than necessary. When I turned to check the dessert table placement, he spoke quietly behind me. "Your daughter Emma, she's a curious one." I froze. "You remember her name?" Children don't usually walk up to me and hug me without reason. "She's impossible to forget." "She's 5. She hugs dogs, mailmen, and street performers." "It's not personal." He smiled faintly. "Maybe not to her, but I think it was personal to you." I spun around. "Excuse me?" You looked unsettled, protective, like someone who's had the world take too much from her. I hated that his words were too close to the truth. "You read people for a living, Mr. Romano?" "Only the ones who interest me." Before I could retort, a security guard entered. "Boss, they're ready downstairs." "Boss." The word hung between us like static. "Show Miss Hayes out when she's done," Luca said, eyes still on me. "And make sure her car's watched." "Watched?" I repeated. Los Angeles can be unpredictable. He left without explaining. I stood there staring after him, irritation battling unease. The next week blurred into late nights and tension. Luca's assistant emailed impossible demands. I met them anyway. Somewhere between stress and exhaustion, I started to notice patterns, his quiet kindnesses that didn't fit the rumors. The security team always kept their distance from Emma's school. My payments were always early. When the florist double-charged me, a refund appeared before I even asked. Still, every interaction with him was a battlefield. When I arrived for the final tasting, he was waiting by the terrace, sleeves rolled again. Phone in hand. "You're late," he said. "Traffic." LA traffic doesn't last 3 hours. I made extra cupcakes. That buys me 30 minutes of forgiveness. He smirked. "You think I can be bribed with sugar?" "Yes, you look like the type who eats your feelings." He laughed, genuinely this time, a rich, startled sound that caught me off guard. "Touché. Don't look so shocked. People laugh sometimes. Even Mafia bosses." His eyes glinted. "You really think that's what I am?" "I think you don't correct people who say it." He stepped closer, close enough that I could smell cedar and espresso. "Because sometimes fear is useful. Keeps the wrong people away. Then why am I still here?" His smile faltered, replaced by something quieter. "Maybe you're not the wrong kind." My heart betrayed me with a skip. I turned quickly, pretending to rearrange silverware. "That's not professional talk, Mr. Romano." "I know." His voice softened, lower, rougher. It wasn't flirtation, it was confession, and that scared me more than anything. Days passed. We spoke more often, mostly about work, sometimes about small things, Emma's love for sunflowers, His childhood in Naples, the way he couldn't stand the smell of whiskey. Our banter grew easier, though every conversation felt like standing near a fire you shouldn't touch by Thursday. The mansion buzzed with preparation. I supervised staff, checked lighting, and tried not to notice him watching from across the room. When he finally approached, he carried 2 cups of coffee. "Truce?" he said, handing one over. "I didn't know we were at war." You hide behind sarcasm. "That's how I know you're fighting something." I exhaled. "You analyze everyone like this?" "Only the ones who make me forget I'm supposed to be working." I nearly dropped the coffee. "You shouldn't say things like that." "Why?" "Because it's true. Because it complicates things." He smiled faintly. Good, I like complicated. The way he said it quiet certain made me feel dangerously seen. That night, after hours of final arrangements, I found Emma asleep in one of the guest lounges. Crayons scattered around her drawing pad. I draped my jacket over her shoulders. "She looks peaceful," Luca said behind me. "She is. Children trust the world more than they should, and adults trust it less." I glanced at him. "Some of us learn better." He leaned against the doorframe, studying me. "Who hurt you?" The question was too sudden, too intimate. "That's not your business." "Maybe not. But you wear your pain like armor. Better armor than illusion." His jaw tightened. "You think that's what I live in?" "I think you hide behind power the way I hide behind sarcasm." Silence stretched. Then quietly, "Maybe that's why your daughter didn't fear me." Our eyes met. Something shifted, an invisible line we'd both been pretending wasn't there. He stepped closer, slowly, carefully, as if testing the air. "You're not like anyone I've met, Natalie." "That's because I don't live in your world." "Then maybe I should try living in yours." For a moment, I almost believed him. Then his phone rang again. His expression darkened as he answered in rapid Italian, words clipped, dangerous. The air around him changed. The man I glimpsed vanished, replaced by someone colder. When he hung up, he looked at me with regret. "I need you to leave early tonight." "Why?" "It's safer." "Safer?" His gaze held mine. "Please, Natalie." I gathered Emma, heart pounding. As we drove away, I caught sight of dark SUVs pulling into the driveway. Too many. Too fast out the next morning. I arrived at the catering office to find 2 men in suits waiting. "Miss Hayes," one said, flashing a badge. "FBI, we're investigating Luca Romano." "We believe you've been in contact with him recently." My throat went dry. "He's my client." "That's all." "Then you won't mind sharing details about Friday's event?" I hesitated. I don't know much." "Be careful, Miss Hayes," the agent warned. "Men like Romano use people like you. When they fall, they take everyone down with them." After they left, I sat frozen, staring at my reflection in the office window. The city glittered outside, bright and merciless. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Don't talk to anyone. Trust me." A fear crawled up my spine. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound outside my window felt amplified. At midnight, headlights flashed across the wall. I tensed, ready to call the police, until I saw his car. Lucas stepped out, expression shadowed. I opened the door before I could think better of it. "What are you doing here?" I hissed. "You talked to them?" "They came to me." He exhaled sharply, pacing. "You shouldn't have answered their questions." "I didn't tell them anything." He stopped, looking at me, angry, conflicted, afraid in a way I hadn't seen before. "You shouldn't even be near me right now." "Believe me, I didn't plan this friendship either." "It's not friendship," he said quietly. My heart stuttered. "Then what is it?" His voice was low, almost broken. "It's the only thing in my life that feels real." Before I could respond, he reached into his coat and pressed a small silver key into my hand. "If anything happens tomorrow night, take Emma and go to the address on this tag." Don't ask questions, Luca. Promise me. His voice was raw, pleading. I nodded, wordless. He turned to leave, pausing at the door. You wanted to know if the rumors were true? I swallowed hard. Are they? He met my gaze, eyes colder than I'd ever seen. Tomorrow, you'll know exactly who I am. And just like that, he was gone. The first thing I noticed when I woke was the quiet. Not peaceful quiet, unnatural quiet. The kind that pressed against your ears until your own heartbeat became the only sound left. I sat up too quickly, and the silk sheet slid from my shoulders. I wasn't in my apartment anymore. The walls were ivory and cold. The curtains were drawn. A vase of white lilies stood on a nearby table, immaculate and scentless. Even before I turned my head, I knew. He brought me here. Emma's laugh drifted in from the next room, soft and unbothered, and that sound alone stopped my panic from tearing through me. My child was safe. That was the only anchor I had. The door opened. No knock. Alexander Kane entered like he owned the air itself. He wore a dark shirt this time, no tie, sleeves rolled up as if the morning had already demanded violence from him. His presence filled the space before his voice did. You sleep like someone who doesn't trust locks. I shouldn't have to. My voice came out low, rough. Where's my phone? Confiscated. I swung my legs off the bed. You had no right. He moved closer, the weight of his gaze pinning me mid-sentence. I had every right when someone sent 2 men to your apartment last night. My breath caught. What? They waited outside your building for an hour? I don't believe in coincidences, do you? He dropped a manila envelope on the bed. Inside grainy surveillance photos, 2 men in hoodies, one leaning against my door. A timestamp, 2:03 a.m. You expect me to believe this? I asked. You can believe whatever helps you sleep, he said. But I don't take chances with people under my protection. I didn't ask for your protection. Your daughter did. The words hit with surgical precision. I wanted to argue, but Emma's voice from the hall stopped me. She was talking to someone, a woman, maybe a maid. Safe, laughing. I looked back at Alexander. I want to see her. He nodded once. You can. But after breakfast, we talk. He left without another word, the door shutting softly behind him. The dining room was absurd long table, tall windows, sunlight slanting across glass and silver. Emma sat at the far end, legs swinging. Eating pancakes like this was an ordinary morning. A middle-aged woman stood behind her, smiling gently. When Emma saw me, she waved her fork. Mommy, Mr. Kane says I can have extra syrup. I smiled faintly and brushed her hair back. You shouldn't say yes to strangers giving you sugar. Alexander stood by the window, hands in his pockets. Good thing I'm not a stranger anymore. I ignored him, focusing on Emma. Sweetheart, we're leaving soon, okay? We'll go home. But Mr. Kane said we're safe here, she said. He said bad people can't come inside. My pulse quickened. What bad people? Alexander turned, voice even. The ones who waited outside your apartment. Emma looked between us, confused. Mommy, are bad people mad at us? I forced a smile. No, baby. No one's mad. She nodded, satisfied, and went back to her pancake stop when she finished. The maid led her out to play in the garden. As soon as she was gone, I faced him. Why are you doing this? You don't even know me. His expression didn't change. I know you're the only person who looked at me like I wasn't a monster in that lobby. Your daughter hugged me like she already knew I needed it. I know that's not something I forget. I folded my arms. That's not a reason to hold us here. He stepped closer, voice quiet but heavy. You were a witness to something that shouldn't have happened. Those men last night weren't random. Someone saw you leave with me. The world tilted. You think they're coming after me because of you. I know they are. He took out a cigarette, but didn't light it. I deal in things that don't make the news. The men who want to hurt me now have your face on a list. So yes, you're under my protection. Whether you like it or not, I backed away. That's not protection. That's control. His jaw tensed. Call it what you want. But until I find out who sent them, you and your daughter stay here. By afternoon, the mansion felt smaller. I watched Emma play in the garden through a window, her laughter echoing against the stone walls. I should have been grateful she was safe, but the price of that safety was suffocating. When the maid brought lunch, I asked quietly, "Does he do this often? Bring people here?" She hesitated. "No, ma'am, never." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing footsteps measured, deliberate, never far from my door. I gave up pretending and went downstairs. The house was dark except for a single lamp in the study. Alexander sat at the desk, reading a file. A glass of whiskey caught the dim light. He looked up. "You don't sleep much, not when I've been abducted. You're dramatic. You're dangerous." He smiled faintly. Both can be true. I stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "You can't keep us here forever." "I don't intend to. But you're not walking out until I know you won't be killed for doing it." Something in his voice, the weariness beneath the steel, caught me off guard. "How many people have you lost to this?" He didn't answer immediately. "Enough to stop counting." He rose and walked toward the window. The city lights stretched beyond the hills, endless and indifferent. I built this life to protect my family. They died anyway. After that, I stopped pretending to be good. "But your daughter?" He paused. "She reminded me what that used to feel like." The silence between us was heavier than any threat. "You don't even know her," I said softly. He turned, eyes sharp. "I know she's brave. I know she saw something broken and tried to fix it the only way a child can, by being kind." I exhaled, tension thinning into something unsteady. "If you really care about protecting her, you'll let us go when this is over?" He studied me for a moment, unreadable. "When this is over, you'll understand why I can't." Days passed. Alexander came and went, always surrounded by silence and shadows. I learned the rhythm of his world, the way people moved out of his path, the coded phone calls, the guarded looks from men in black suits. Emma grew attached to him in a way I couldn't stop. She waited for him to come home, brought him drawings, asked him to taste her tea party water. And somehow, impossibly, he played along. One evening, as I tucked her into bed, she whispered, "Mr. Kane said monsters can't hurt us here." I brushed her hair back. "You believe that?" She nodded, half asleep. "He's the biggest monster. So the others are scared?" I froze. Downstairs, I heard the distant rumble of an engine, then the soft click of the front door. He was leaving again. I stood at the window, watching the taillights vanish into the dark. For the first time, I didn't know whether I wanted him to come back. Hours later, the sound of gunfire broke the silence, short, sharp, close. I ran from the room, heart hammering. Men shouted downstairs. The air filled with the metallic scent of fear and smoke. "Emma!" I screamed, sprinting toward her room. A hand grabbed me, pulling me into the shadows. "Alexander," blood on his shirt. "Stay down," he hissed. "What's happening?" "They found us." His grip tightened as bullets shattered glass somewhere below. He pulled me toward a side hall, every step deliberate, protective, brutal. We burst into a narrow passageway leading toward the cellar stairs. The sound of gunfire followed like thunder. When we reached the door, he shoved me inside. "Keep her safe. Don't open this for anyone but me." He turned to go. I caught his arm. "You can't fight them alone." He looked down at my hand, then at me. "That's exactly what I do." And before I could speak again, He was gone into the chaos above, into the world my daughter had accidentally walked us into with one innocent hug. The door shut. The sound of war swallowed the rest. Subscribe for the next story. Share it if you want more. Leave a comment to keep the series going.